exciting news. We're going to do an Mtf comparison and talk about improvements for the Tamron 28-75mm F2.8 VXD Generation 2. Let's get started with what's new. Vxd Af Motor. This is Tamron's version of the linear focus motor. The older G1 was by no means slow, however this is an exciting improvement. One of the cons of the older lens was the direction of focus. Well, that can be changed via firmware. Following Samyang's lead, there's a switch for dual use of the focus ring to control aperture and pre-recorded focus presets. It seems to have focus transitions from A to B on lens. It will be interesting to see how that works. Lastly, Tamron lens utility via connector port for direct-to-lens updates and modifications. Preface for the Mtf Comparisons. Sony, Sigma, and Tamron all use 10 and 30 line pairs. I arranged the MTFs as labeled here for the respective lenses. First off, we will take a look at the APS-C. I drew the lines for the ones that did not have lines at 14mm. So if we take a look at the MTFs or APS-C, the contrast lines are good for all of the lenses. Where it differs is the resolution. As you can see, this top line is drawn for the highest performer, which is the Tamron G2. As you can see, both Sigmas and the Tamron G1 trail substantially compared to this line. The G2 has a good amount of astigmatism and chromatic aberration. Similarly, the GM does as well. Looking at the full frame performance, all of them do reasonably well with contrast. The upper pair of lines. When it comes to full resolution, it's a different story. The G2 actually does have quite a drop off towards the 18mm mark, so that's around the far corners of the lens. Even then, it out-resolves all the lenses including the GM for 80% of the frame. The G2 has astigmatism towards the APS corners. GM has it towards the full frame corners. So on the wide end, the G2 runs neck and neck with the 24-70 GM, which is prime level sharpness on the wide end. Next up, let's look at the long end wide open for APS-C. This is where the G1 shows its age. Even for APS-C, you see the contrast line is clearly below the top line. When it comes to resolution, that's where the G2, it's really in a class of its own. Even at this APS-C crop, the top line holds all the way to the 90 percentile, where the other lenses can drop down to 0.7. So when it comes to the full frame edges wide open, it's no contest. The G2 is sharper than essentially all the lenses. Even the 30 line pairs look better on the G2 than the 10 line pairs on the G1. It's a good bit better than the 24-70 Art and GMs. Final thoughts, the 28-75 RXD came out in January 2019 and was sold out for ages. A one-of-a-kind lens for Sony mirrorless. Reasonable price, high performance, and it made Tamron a top seller of lenses that year. Tamron looks to have solved most of the issues as well as add additional improvements. Tell me what you think about this lens. Will it be on your radar in the coming months? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. See you on the next one.